YouTube is full of videos about good knives. It's full of videos about bad knives. It's high time that someone makes a video about weird knives. This is 3 Weird Knives, and I'm your host, JJJinks!
Let's get weird.
Why am I bothering? Well, let's get right into it. For starters, we'll have a look at a knife that I got from Wish.com or Temu or one of those. So I got this quite a while ago, before the tariffs, just kind of browsing around, and I saw the picture, and I was like, oh, what the hell is that? And from the pictures, I still couldn't tell how it worked, but it's got some kind of a piston-y thing, and it's a knife. And it's painted a very foresty green, I suppose. And I like the combination of the brass and green look, very kind of the Legend of Zelda centric. And the way it works is there's this ring, and that piston actually does, function with this little hinge, and when it's in the extended position, the knife is essentially unlocked and can be pulled out of the sheath. Maybe. It's a little tricky. I think you kind of have to, you have to kind of move it here, and then it can come out, and that kind of pivot into that position is prevented when the piston is extended. What you get is a little teeny tiny knife that says D2 on it. It's got a pretty neat looking clip point design, actually. A little bit of scroll work in the bolster, and even got a lanyard hole. And is there something in that lanyard hole? Yeah, there's something in there. What is that? Insect lay an egg in there or something? I'll just leave it alone. Now, I know what a lot of people might be thinking, well, is this D2 steel, actually? My answer is, well, it kind of doesn't matter. I'm never really going to use this knife. But it could be. I mean, D2, 5 years ago, I would have said, no way. Absolutely not. But the price of that kind of steel has actually come down quite a bit. Well, I'm not sure about now. But for a while, you could get a billet of D2 steel, decently sized, for like $10. I guess the popularity drove up the production and then demand went away. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not an economist. But what a neat thing. So the sheath is just pieces of wood and this really unique locking mechanism. Very steampunkish. I like that about it. And getting it back in, you can literally just shove it in and it should snap, like so. Or you can go ahead and actuate the mechanism and do it that way if you wish. I like the novelty of having like a moving part as a part of the function of the knife. That's really neat. And it's fidgety in that way, I suppose. I could see something like this, like a whole table of them laid out at like a Ren fair or like a steampunk festival or something like that. And I'm pretty sure they make them in different colors as well. But I went with this one because it's the handsomest. Here comes number 2. I found this knife. I believe it was at an antique store, thrift store, consignment place on the road trip somewhere. And it's just like there's a certain design and look to novelty knives from yesterday, where it's just a couple slabs of acrylic pinned or riveted into teeny tiny thin slabs of pot metal steel and a shitty blade on it, and it's a novelty knife, and that's fine. That's all I want. That's all I need. So what's novel about this one is 2 things. Number 1, it's got a calendar on the scales, and I just haven't seen that before. A calendar built into a knife. And this one is dated from the year 1994. Wow. I mean, way before I got into knife collecting. And the blade, it's just a slip joint Oh, clip point. Oh, knife. Oh, that's very, very stiff. And a little bit of rust. What it says on the bolster is Novelty Knife Company. How about that? And I could tell that this was used because the edge is so just beat up. Kind of hard to get the light shining in just the right spot, but probably somewhere about there. You can see that it's mangled. Not worth restoring, not worth using really, but what a cool little thing, having a calendar built right into the knife. Now, I said there were two things about it that make it weird and novel, and I guess another one is there's bubbles. A little hard to see, but the bubbles in the acrylic. So even the scales were kind of made shoddily. But if you look closely, you might notice that in the January section of the calendar, the first of the year is on a Saturday. And the next time that's going to happen is going to be the year 2033. So in addition to being a weird knife, it is also an investment. And for the final weird knife, a very, very special one that I spotted not that long ago. It's one of my Grail knives, or my bucket list knives, whatever you want to call it. I actually featured it in a video not that long ago from this series. I'll save you the click and show you now. This is the F-100 Super Sabre, one of the first hypersonic jets. Flew over the skies of Vietnam for very wholesome reasons, I'm sure. Here's a look at the cockpit. Inside the cockpit, there is a knife. Do you see it? How about from this view? Yep, it's that yellow thing. So what is that, and why is it there? So every once in a while, I jump on eBay, type in the keywords, have a look around, and I see them here and there listed for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And if it's in really good shape, we're talking 500 plus. If it's in decentish shape, we're talking 300 plus. And I'm not talking about listing prices. They actually sell. I put an offer on one. It went up for $1, had 12 days left. It said, bid or best offer. I offered them, I think it was like $50, just shooting my shot, you know. And they were like, nope, rejected. That knife ended up selling for over $300. But the other day, I spotted a buy it now listing for $70. What a great deal for something that's also a military collectible, and it didn't come with the frame, and it's beat to hell, but I kind of prefer it that way, because there's a real possibility that this one was actually used or in service, I suppose. And well, who knows, you know, if it's in really great shape, it's almost less interesting. And there were a couple of things about this knife that really struck me when I first opened it. And first of all, it is really heavy, which makes sense. You want it to be. And holy crap, look how thick the blade stock is. I mean, I'm calling it a knife and a blade, but really it's made for breaking the canopies of aircraft. So just puncturing aluminum paneling and breaking glass, and not much else. And the way that the blade is designed, it really puts all of the force right up into that tip, and it's super blunt, and that's fine. You know, it's kind of like how a lot of bayonets are not sharp because they're intended for stabbing and not slicing. Similar story here. And there is actually some wear, some damage right up there at the tip. And I don't know the history of this particular knife. The seller just, I don't know, sold a bunch of random stuff, and this was one of them. So I jumped on it, and now I have it. That's 1.5 knives off of my weird knives I'll probably never own list. The other half knife was the Model 17 Astro by Randall Made Knives. I've recently talked a bit about it, put out a video when I went to the Randall Knife Museum, and I saw it in person. I never will own it, though, unless I become like a multi-billionaire and just offer them a shitload of money for it. And even then, I don't think they would want to sell it. Now I'm rambling again. Another thing that kind of surprised me a little bit about this knife was the fit and finish. It's a bit rough, and that's not unusual for military surplus, military specifications. They're actually pretty generous when it comes to tolerances, we'll put it that way. And this knife has a couple of voids. One you can see there, and it's the same on the other side. A little bit less obvious, but there's kind of a void right here, like a hole. And you know what? That's good enough. It got the job done. That's all that it needed. And it gives it a little bit of personality. You know what I mean? Construction-wise, I'm still trying to figure that out. The part where the blade meets the hilt has what looks like it might have been welded and then smoothed over, because you can see from this angle that the spine of the knife kind of sits into the hilt there, and then it just kind of got, I don't know, like almost like it was caulked into place, but with something metal. So I'm just guessing that was welded and then cleaned off. I'm not sure. I don't know how they made these things. You can see the fit and finish back here is a bit rough. That spine of the blade sticks out a little bit from the back circular piece, more so on one side than the other. And then the handle, which has that knurled look, well, it is knurled, has an alternating black and yellow striping effect, which I haven't seen before on a canopy breaker knife, and I don't know what that means. Haven't looked it up. I haven't looked at every, show me all the different varieties of canopy breakers there are. Maybe that information is out there. I'll probably look it up later, and if it's interesting enough, I'll break in with an edit, but maybe that can help me to actually track down some more information about this knife, because the ones that I've seen are mostly monocolored. Sometimes they're like red or blue or just plain old metallic looking. Haven't seen this alternate striping look before. Pretty neat. And the handle's got a hole in it on the very bottom. I'm pretty sure that's a part of the bracket that held it into place. And it's also kind of flat down there, so you can put it just like that and display it that way. It makes a neat conversation piece. There's also a lot of damage to the finish of the actual blade, mars, scratches, and I just gotta wonder, is this thing used? Was this used to free a pilot from a canopy? I just don't know. It was used for something, that's for sure. And the handle is such a simple design. It's kind of a bicycle handle look. It just, you could feel the power when you hold it in your hand. It's so heavy, but somehow you just, it's gonna do some real damage if you hit something hard enough with it, which is the point. And so now I can say I finally own a canopy breaker knife. And that is all for this episode of 3 Weird Knives with JJJinks.